Talking business is our billing on this show. This is The World of Business, your weekly cutting-edge business show where we give you the latest business stories as well as the latest updates on the stock markets. We also herald unsung but thriving entrepreneurs on this show. Hello and welcome to this edition of The World of Business. My name is Steve Tadzoka. Today, we are going to be analyzing the first edition of the African Voluntary Carbon Credits Market Forum that was held in Victoria Falls from the 5th to the 7th of July. Amid revelations that the credits will soon be traded on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange for enhanced benefits. But first, we take a look at the exchange rates for the day.
Exchange rate as of Thursday were: the Zimbabwean dollar to US dollar interbank rate was at $4,988.26. The Zimbabwe dollar to the Great Britain pound was at $6,488.74. The Zimbabwean dollar to euro rate was at $5,558.43. The Zimbabwe dollar to the South African rand rate was at $0.0036. The Zimbabwe dollar to Botswana pula rate was at $377.63.
We also give you commodity prices on the global market.
Commodity prices as of Thursday afternoon: gold per ounce traded at $1,964.20 after it went up by 0.2 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $24.48 after it went up by 0.7 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $388.05 after it went up by 0.71 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $963.99 after it went up by 0.99 percentage points.
That's all we had for you in the first segment of The World of Business. Do join me in the second segment of The World of Business, where we'll analyze the African Voluntary Carbon Credit Market Forum that was held between the 5th and the 7th of July this year. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the second segment of The World of Business. And like I said earlier on in the segment, we are going to be analyzing the first edition of the African Voluntary Carbon Credits Market Forum that was held in Victoria Falls on the 5th to the 7th of July this month. And to help me unpack that conversation, I'm joined by the CEO of that forum, who is Mr. Benjamin. And we are also joined by a weather climate expert, who is Mr. Dingane Sithole. Gentlemen, welcome to The World of Business.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Right, now the first edition of the African Voluntary Carbon Credit Market Forum that was held in Victoria Falls promised us that we are going to hence have the carbon credits being traded on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. Would you mind explaining to us what this means in layman's terms at this whole forum altogether?
Right. We want the price discovery or the carbon credits to be traded also in an African setting. So what we mean by that is we need to start establishing African registries. Of all 36 registries that are out there, most of them are across the Atlantic, but they are selling our forest, they are selling our assets. And we've not really had a transactional registry where you can have your credits and also where you can have a price discovery in terms of how much you're selling, how much you're going to be settled, how much the tax authorities are going to have. So this was the conversation at the forums, getting all parties in there, certifiers, policymakers, and also the people that superintend over these national resources and assets.
And can you confirm that this is going to be one of the first carbon credit markets in Africa?
I can confirm that it is the first. It is the first, and it is something that you're going to see annually in Victoria Falls, as the one that continues to track trains and to have these key performance indicators that are we moving forward as Africa in terms of ushering Africa into this climate economy.
All right. So moving on to you, Mr. Sithole, as the climate change expert, this move to see this forum, this conversation happening in the African continent, in the context of the African continent, do you see any potential impacts in terms of our local players in Zimbabwe, to be precise, in terms of their action towards advocating for the climate stability locally as well as globally?
Precisely. I think the biggest advantage here is there's the acceleration of carbon trading in Zimbabwe and also in other African countries. Now the advantages are numerous. They range from one, bringing everyone on board, all the key players, those who want to trade, those who want to sell, and also the benefits can trickle down throughout the whole economy, which then can even address other economic issues, other social issues, other developmental issues. So I would say the forum definitely is a very much welcome and timely intervention in terms of accelerating carbon trading and also bring everyone on board.
And do you see any potential downsides, maybe something that you may be concerned about as far as this forum is concerned?
I think there is definitely a number of the risks that are associated with this. One, or the main one, stems from the issue of information. Do all the players really understand what carbon trading is all about? If not, then there are definitely risks that are associated with that kind of involvement where there is information asymmetry. So I would say, yes, the downside is if people just get in with a lot of expectation without understanding, they may end up not really gaining or getting the benefits that can be accrued from the trading. But obviously, the benefits, if done well, far outweigh the risks that I'm talking about.
Okay, that's interesting to note. And over to you, Mr. Chimutengo. You know, our government has tried to stabilize our economy and introduce more investment vehicles like the gold-backed digital coins, as well as the digital coin themselves, trying to bring stability into the market. And now that there is this forum that is going to help in terms of the trading and exchanging of carbon credits, what are the possible impacts in terms of the economy of Zimbabwe and Africa at large?
Maybe let me start from home. In relation to Zimbabwe, you're going to see some new assets being traded on the counters, like your exchange traded funds, ETFs that follow these assets. Mm-hmm. Because behind these carbon credits are huge companies like your Rolls-Royce, your like the Kariba ones at Gucci, McKinsey and Company, Ernst & Young. So that you can see that the quality of what has been certified, sometimes over a 30-year period, can have a competitive, latitude with your treasury bonds that are based with other assets on the market. So yeah, we're going to see maybe pension funds, following these climate bonds, whether they're ETFs, they come in so many numbers. We're not the first. London Stock Exchange is doing that. New York Stock Exchange is doing that. So we might be, even if the government can actually even usher this as some of these bonds or these units as a prescribed asset status, start maybe to digitalize them or tokenize them, and we can end up trading them in terms of our transaction, also stabilizing our currency. But that's a short, but it is there. It can be done. Because
if I can hold you there, you exclusively highlighted that it's going to be on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. Yeah. And between you and me, we both know that the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange is traded in foreign currency, yep, which is not the larger income scale for the ordinary Zimbabweans. Yep. So why not on the main stock exchange? Yeah,
we are not limited to. We have deliberately called ourselves African, not Zimbabwean, but Zimbabwe is in Africa. So people can have this model at country level. So Malawi can have that at country level. Zimbabwe is still going to have its own registry, albeit maybe it will have a tendency on the Victoria Falls a registry. So Malawi will have its registry, and they have a tendency on the Victoria Falls to be able to trade. So it is this kind of things that, now RBZ, the Ministry of Finance, now can start looking and say, wow, maybe locally at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, this is how maybe we can leverage our Zim dollar using these climate bonds or these ETFs and stabilize our local currency. So we are not going to interfere with that. We have just come into Victoria Falls because it's an offshore financial services center. We're saying don't get on the jet and go to London. Don't get on the jet and go to New York. Go to Victoria Falls and you are able to trade, and you can easily go to Victoria Falls from Malawi. You don't have visa encumbrances, interrogations. Come to Victoria Falls. Beautiful. And make money.
Absolutely. Now over to you, Mr. Sithole. Given the benefits that he has packaged all together, how is this move going to also enhance the development of Africa as well as our efforts as African people, now that there's an incentive towards a positive global affirmative actions towards climate change?
Thank you very much. The starting point is that carbon trading or the carbon markets are a key component of climate finance. So this then facilitates the movement of capital from different parts of the world, whether Africa, outside Africa, to come to those jurisdictions, including Zimbabwe. So the coming of that money, the money can then be used to support climate action, both mitigation and even adaptation. So the experiences that we have gone through in terms of the cyclones, in terms of the droughts, we can say from carbon trading, some of the benefits can then be used to address those. So that becomes some social adaptation issues. Financial issues, they can also be addressed through the carbon markets. We can also talk of technology transfer. When these actions are being implemented, definitely there's movement of some better technologies, more climate-friendly technologies, green technologies. So they can even also push and address the issues of green industry in the country. So the benefits range from the social benefits to the communities, to the people. They can also even address the challenges in industry where we can green the value chains. Then we can also talk of, obviously, the financial benefits to those who are trading.
Of course, of
yes.
course. Now that you bring the financial benefits into perspective, Mr. Chimutengo, this one goes to you and it's going to be the last one. Now, there's an estimated global offset in terms of the value of the carbon credits. And in 2022, it was recorded to be around 850 billion and nearing $1 trillion. But however, there have been some unscrupulous players who have benefited from that fund without necessarily doing any work on the ground. Like, for example, there's a company that is based in America that was benefiting from the fund, saying that they are planting more trees, but they were referring to trees that already exist, and they then ended up spending that money unscrupulously. What's your take on that?
Look, these agreements, some of them, they cover 30 years. So it's not really, the work has been done to certify them. There's a lot of work that goes in certifying a carbon credit. I believe that if these are examples that are close to home, the climate fund can actually then assume the ownership of their 50% of those carbon credits because they still got value. And then those that have benefited, if they are Zimbabweans, then the RBZ has got the FIU, the exchange control can, come to negotiations. Zimra needs to get paid. So the country has got instruments in order to chase the money on behalf of the communities because that money is residing somewhere. So it's something that can happen if you externalize lithium minerals. It's the same thing that can be done. So there is 30 million or maybe 30 million worth of euros for the communities that the RBZ can chase after. Zimra will get their 15%. Whatever those carbon credits that that were developed, the climate fund, which is now being set up after the SI comes in and our framework comes in, it's the seed of starting it. So those are some of the prescriptions that can, can immediately get us, some sort of recourse, if I have to use that word.
Okay, so thank you, gentlemen, for shedding more lights on the carbon credits market that are currently hanging over our continent, Africa and Zimbabwe.
Welcome, Steve.
Right, and that brings us to the end of this segment on the world of business. Now, Zimbabwe and Africa at large have been excluded from the conversation in terms of the benefits of our carbon credits for our green economy. But now we are happy with the advent of the African voluntary carbon credit markets that is going to see itself being traded on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange for more benefit. But otherwise, do stay tuned. We continue on the third segment where we give the spotlight to the Entrepreneur of the Week. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the third and final segment of the World of Business, where we give the spotlight to the Entrepreneur of the Week. Now, for this week, the team of the World of Business spoke to Mr. Alvin Mparuza, who is currently the Managing Director of Classic Superfoods, who is involved in food processing as well as other projects that are related to that in order to empower locals and help boost food productivity. Let us hear more from Sela Mareri as she speaks to Mr. Alvin Mparuza.
We are out here in Willoville, Harare at Classic Superfoods. Now, the government of Zimbabwe, in collaboration with the National Development Strategy 1, is continuously in support of projects to boost food productivity and to improve food self-sufficiency as the region works towards retaining its breadbasket status. It is in this spirit that today we are joined by the Managing Director of Classic Superfoods. Hello, Mr. Mparuza, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Classic Superfoods.
Thank you so much. Now, as we begin, what were the circumstances surrounding you starting this company? What was the motivation behind it?
Classic Superfoods was born in 2003. It was born from, firstly, we were doing maize broking, selling maize to other millers and stock feeders. Then an opportunity arose that we start up a milling company, and that's how we started. Obviously, it was through government support when they started registering indigenous millers.
Okay, so was it something that you've always wanted, or it was something that was emanating from a background?
It was something that I've always wanted. I've always wanted to trade in commodities and also then process commodities. So when that opportunity arose where government were supporting indigenous guys to start up their own milling companies, we jumped on that bandwagon.
You mentioned the government as having contributed immensely to you starting this company. What is the role that the government played in you starting Classic Superfoods?
Well, firstly, through allocations with GMB, registering us as millers through GMB, which was quite a big step for government to do, as opposed to having the traditional millers such as National Foods and Blue Ribbon.
So someone out there may wonder, did you just start this big or it was a process? What were some of the challenges that you faced along the way?
It was obviously a process in trying to acquire the machinery, funding of course, which we use our profits from the broking business, selling maize and stuff. We then also started acquiring hammer mills to start off with. And slowly we grew, and also, getting from the normal hammer mills, using latest technology to what we have right now, which is your latest technology in milling.
Earlier on, you mentioned some of the challenges that you faced when you're starting this company, and you talked about how the government managed to pitch in and help you. When we talk of challenges, we also mention achievements. What are some of the biggest achievements that you celebrate today as Classic Superfoods?
Firstly, we are celebrating this year 20 years in December. Like I said, we incorporated in 2003, and in 2023 December we'll be celebrating 20 years of operation. Number two, biggest achievement is reaching the capacity that we have now over other millers that are in the industry. I think those are quite two big achievements for an indigenous miller.
Still on that, can you walk us through the processes, the operations of this place? What is it that you are really involved in?
What we are involved in is milling, which is processing of mainly maize. Okay, we acquire maize through the grain marketing board. When we acquire the maize, it comes here to our plant. It goes through the process in our plant, giving us various products, including roller meal, super refined, and stock feeds. Stock feeds meaning maize bran, maize germ, and maize residue.
And I can also agree with you that maybe one of the achievements that you have actually brought about is employment creation, which is one of the key goals under the Second Republic.
That is very true.
Still on that, talk to us about your staff complement, looking at both the part-time and the full-time workers.
Staff complement, including administration, factory workers, millers, managers, production superintendents, drivers, sales reps, merchandisers. We have a staff complement of over 65 to 70 people.
And how did you deal with the issue of funding this enterprise?
Financial challenges are always there. We obviously have hard times in trying to get loans from the bank, but over time, as we acquired also stands and property, we managed to be able to be loaned money through the banks using our properties as collateral.
You've taken us through the process of starting your company and some of the challenges and achievements that you have faced as you were trading, as you're growing. What does the future of Classic Superfoods look like 5 to 10 years from now, looking at your plan for Zimbabwe and maybe the global landscape?
Our vision within the next 5 to 10 years is to expand Classic Superfoods. We want it to be a super group consisting of obviously Classic Superfoods milling, Classic Superfoods packaging, Classic Superfoods logistics, Classic Super commodities, all in one. That's our bigger vision, expanding not only in Harare, but into various towns, for example, Bulawayo, Mutare, Gweru, all those other places, and also to include various products on our portfolio. Currently, like we're doing milli meal, we have rice now on our portfolio. We have salt that is on board coming. We have popcorn that we're going to be packing. We've got sugar beans on the line. As we speak, we will be commissioning a snack line plant.
The National Development Strategy 1 puts emphasis on achieving food security as a nation as one of its key pillars. How far do you think we are as Zimbabweans in as far as achieving food security is concerned? I mean, looking at some of the projects like this one that local citizens are partaking in.
Definitely, as food security in Zimbabwe, we are there. We had a wheat bumper harvest last year. We have enough maize to feed the nation. Us as millers are contributing by processing the said agricultural products to make sure that every household has got food.
Definitely, I can agree with you there. So what are some of the problems that you'd think your company and many other companies like this one are solving in the history of Zimbabwe as far as achieving our food security?
We are definitely solving by processing what the farmer has put on the ground and given to us to make sure that we have quality, affordable food on the table for every family in Zimbabwe.
Mr. Mparuta, we have had quite an insightful conversation with you, but as your last words to the viewers that are watching you, what are those words of inspiration that you want to give to the young, to the old citizens that are watching you right now? They want to venture into the same projects. They also want to start their own companies, but maybe they don't have the starting capital, they don't have the support, and maybe they don't even have the knowledge. What would you say to them is your words of motivation?
Consistency, 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 and working hard and be consistent in what you do, and you definitely achieve. Like our president says, work hard, not kungwavangwava.
Mr. Mparuta, thank you so much for having us today and for joining us today on our segment of the Entrepreneur of the Week and for the words of wisdom that you have definitely imparted us today.
Thank you very much and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. That was the conversation we're having today with Mr. Alvin Mparuta, the Managing Director of Classic Superfoods, who has made it clear that consistency is very key in as far as achieving Vision 2030 is concerned, and Zimbabwe is not so far away from retaining its breadbasket status. Thank you so much for joining us on this third and final segment of World of Business, where we give the spotlight to our Entrepreneur of the Week. Be sure to join us again next week. It's now back to the studio.
That was the third and final segment of the World of Business that delved into the exploitations that are being made by Mr. Alvin Mparuta. And that brings us to the end of this episode of the World of Business. Stay tuned and see you next week.